Someone unexpected just confessed their feelings to your special person. Here's what they did next. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay until the very end because this is a fictional story about unexpected emotions, difficult choices, and a conversation that changed two lives forever. Listen carefully. It all began on an ordinary afternoon that looked no different from any other. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with warm shades of orange and gold, while people hurried through their daily routines without realizing that somewhere nearby, someone was preparing to say words they had hidden for a very long time. Your special person had no idea that before the evening ended, they would hear a confession they never expected, a confession that would leave them speechless and force them to confront feelings they had carefully kept buried inside their heart. What happened next changed everything. As they finished their work and stepped outside into the cool evening air, they noticed someone quietly waiting near the entrance. It wasn't dramatic. There were no grand gestures or crowds of people. Just one person standing there with nervous eyes and trembling hands. After a long silence, they finally spoke. I've wanted to tell you this for a long time, they said softly. I know I can't control how you feel, and I'm not asking you to give me an answer today. But I couldn't keep pretending these feelings didn't exist. I care about you more than I've ever admitted. The words hung in the air, heavy with vulnerability and sincerity. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. Your special person stood there in complete silence. They hadn't expected this conversation. They respected the courage it took for someone to be so honest, yet their heart immediately became filled with conflicting emotions. They appreciated the trust behind the confession, but another thought quietly entered their mind, a memory of someone else who had once changed their life in ways they could never forget. They realized that the heart cannot simply choose its feelings because another opportunity appears. Genuine emotions are rarely that simple. Listen carefully. Instead of giving an immediate answer, they gently thanked the person for their honesty. They said, "Your courage deserves respect, and I'm grateful that you trusted me enough to tell me how you feel. I don't ever want to respond carelessly to something so important." Those words were spoken with kindness rather than uncertainty. They understood that honesty should always be met with compassion, even when the answer is not yet clear. The other person smiled sadly, knowing they had finally spoken the truth, regardless of what happened next. Stay until the very end because the greatest realization is still ahead. That night, your special person couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. They walked through quiet streets beneath a sky filled with stars, asking themselves difficult questions. What does my heart truly want? Am I holding on to old memories? Am I afraid to move forward? Or have I simply not been honest with myself? They realized this moment was about much more than someone else's confession. It had become an invitation to understand their own heart with greater honesty than ever before. What happened next changed everything once again. Before going to sleep, they opened an old journal that had remained untouched for many months. Reading through its pages reminded them of dreams they once held, lessons they had learned, and people who had helped shape their life. On one page they found a sentence they had written years earlier: "Never accept or reject love out of fear. Let every important decision come from honesty, kindness, and peace." Reading those words brought a calmness they hadn't felt all evening. They finally understood that the right decision would never be rushed by pressure or guilt. My beloved child, remember that this is a fictional story created to inspire reflection. Sometimes unexpected conversations invite us to understand ourselves more deeply. Honest confessions deserve kindness, whether or not they lead to a relationship. Real love is built on respect, clear communication, and genuine choice, not obligation or pressure. As the first rays of morning sunlight slowly filled the horizon, your special person smiled quietly and took a deep breath. They knew an important conversation still awaited them, but they were no longer afraid of it. Whatever happened next would be guided by honesty, compassion, and respect for everyone's feelings. They stepped into the new day carrying courage instead of confusion, knowing that sometimes the most beautiful chapters begin not with an unexpected confession, but with the decision to answer it truthfully, kindly, and with an open heart. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay until the very end because this fictional story is entering the chapter where silence finally gives way to honesty. Listen carefully. The morning after the unexpected confession, your special person woke before sunrise. Sleep had come only in short moments because the conversation from the previous evening kept replaying in their mind. It wasn't the confession itself that stayed with them the most, it was the courage behind it. They knew how difficult it is to place your heart in someone else's hands without knowing what the answer will be. As the first golden rays of sunlight entered the room, they quietly whispered to themselves, "Every honest heart deserves an honest answer." At that moment, they decided they would no longer allow uncertainty to speak louder than kindness. What happened next changed everything. Later that afternoon, they agreed to meet the person who had confessed their feelings. The meeting took place in a quiet garden where flowers gently moved with the breeze and birds filled the air with soft songs. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, it was respectful. Finally, your special person smiled gently and said, "Before I say anything else, I want to thank you. It takes incredible courage to be this honest with someone, and I will never take that for granted." Those words immediately eased the tension. The person who had confessed realized that no matter what answer came next, they were being treated with dignity and compassion. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. After a long pause, your special person continued speaking. I've spent the last day thinking about everything you shared with me. I asked myself whether I could answer from pressure, loneliness, or guilt, but none of those would be fair to either of us. I believe the only answer worth giving is one that comes from complete honesty. Their voice was calm, yet filled with emotion. They explained that while they deeply appreciated the affection being offered, their heart was still carrying feelings and unfinished chapters that needed time to heal. It wasn't a rejection of someone's worth. It was simply the truth about where they were emotionally. Listen carefully. The person who had confessed lowered their eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath before smiling softly. "Thank you," they replied. "Of course I wish things were different, but I respect you even more because you chose honesty instead of giving me false hope." Those words surprised your special person. Instead of creating bitterness, the conversation created mutual respect. They both realized that genuine care sometimes means accepting disappointment with grace rather than demanding an outcome that isn't real. As they stood to leave, they shook hands warmly, both understanding that honesty had protected both of their hearts. Stay until the very end because the greatest realization is still ahead. Walking home through the quiet streets, your special person felt an unexpected sense of peace. They had feared this conversation would end with hurt feelings and regret, but instead it had ended with understanding. They realized that kindness is not only found in saying yes. Sometimes kindness is found in saying no with compassion, respect, and truth. That evening they opened their journal once again and wrote, "The strongest relationships begin with honesty, even when honesty is difficult." Looking at those words, they smiled because they knew they had acted according to their values instead of their fears. Then came the quiet moment that completed this chapter. As another sunrise slowly illuminated the horizon the following morning, your special person stood beside the window watching the world awaken. They understood that life often presents unexpected choices, but character is revealed in how we respond to them. They whispered softly, "Every conversation has the power to leave someone with either hope or hurt. Today I choose to leave kindness wherever I go." Those simple words became a promise they intended to keep for the rest of their life. My beloved child, remember that this is a fictional story created to inspire hope and reflection. Sometimes the most meaningful moments are not the dramatic confessions themselves, but the compassion, honesty, and respect shown in response. We cannot control how others feel, but we can choose to treat every person with dignity, sincerity, and kindness. As the golden morning light spread across the city once again, your special person stepped into a brand new day carrying no regret. Their heart felt lighter because they had chosen truth over fear and compassion over convenience. They knew the future still held mysteries, new friendships, unexpected opportunities, and perhaps even new love one day. But whatever chapter came next, they would meet it with honesty, humility, and a heart that refused to sacrifice kindness, even when the conversation was difficult. Somewhere beyond the glowing horizon, another remarkable chapter was already waiting, ready to reveal that the greatest love stories are built not on perfect moments, but on truthful hearts. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay until the very end because this fictional story is about to reveal that the most unexpected chapter had not yet been written. Listen carefully. Several peaceful days passed after that heartfelt conversation in the garden. Life slowly returned to its familiar rhythm, but your special person noticed something unusual. Instead of feeling weighed down by the difficult decision they had made, they felt lighter than they had in years. They had finally discovered that honesty, even when painful, brings a kind of peace that pretending never can. Every morning they woke with a clearer heart, and every evening they rested knowing they had treated another person's feelings with dignity and respect. They thought the story was over, but life was quietly preparing another surprise. What happened next changed everything. One afternoon, while helping organize a charity event in the community, your special person met an elderly couple who had been married for more than 50 years. Watching them laugh together over the smallest things was both beautiful and inspiring. Curious, your special person asked, "What is the secret to a love that lasts so long?" The elderly man smiled warmly before looking at his wife and replying, "We stopped trying to find the perfect person. Instead, we chose to become better people for each other every single day." His wife gently nodded and added, "Love grows strongest where kindness is practiced every day, not only during life's happiest moments. Those simple words settle deeply into your special person's heart. They realize that lasting relationships are built through daily choices, not dramatic promises. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. That evening, as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, your special person returned home and found an envelope resting quietly beneath the front door. There was no return address, only a short handwritten note inside. It simply read, "Thank you for answering with honesty instead of comfort that wasn't real. You reminded me that my value isn't determined by someone else's feelings. Your kindness gave me the courage to continue believing in love." Reading those words brought tears to their eyes. They had worried for days that their answer might have caused lasting pain, but instead they discovered that honesty delivered with compassion had become part of someone else's healing journey. Listen carefully. That night they walked through the quiet streets beneath a sky filled with stars. They no longer searched for signs or tried to predict what tomorrow would bring. Instead, they reflected on how much they themselves had changed. There had been a time when they feared difficult conversations because they wanted everyone to be happy. Now they understood that avoiding the truth often creates greater pain than speaking it gently. They whispered to themselves, "Real love is never built on pretending. It is built on trust, honesty, and the courage to respect another person's heart." Those words echoed peacefully through the still night air. Stay until the very end because the greatest realization is still ahead. The following morning they returned to the quiet garden where everything had begun. Flowers bloomed peacefully beneath the morning sunlight, completely unaware of the important conversations that had taken place there only days before. Sitting quietly on the same bench, your special person smiled as they watched butterflies move from flower to flower. They understood something they had never fully appreciated before. Every season has its purpose. Some seasons teach us how to hold on. Others teach us how to let go with grace. Both are necessary if we hope to grow into wiser, kinder human beings. Then came the quiet moment that completed this chapter. Before leaving the garden, they opened their journal once more and wrote, "The greatest gift I can offer another person is not the answer they hope for. It is the truth they deserve, spoken with compassion and respect." As they closed the journal, a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers through the air, reminding them that even after difficult conversations, beauty continues to grow where kindness has been planted. My beloved child, remember that this is a fictional story created to inspire hope and reflection. Honest conversations may not always lead to the outcome we expect, but they often create the foundation for healing, mutual respect, and personal growth. Every interaction gives us an opportunity to leave another person's heart a little lighter than we found it. As another golden sunrise slowly illuminated the horizon, your special person walked forward with renewed confidence. They no longer feared the future because they had learned that integrity is more valuable than approval, kindness is stronger than comfort built on false hope, and genuine love begins with honesty. Somewhere beyond the next sunrise, another beautiful chapter was already waiting, not shaped by dramatic confessions or impossible promises, but by quiet courage, authentic connection, and the enduring power of a heart that always chooses truth with compassion. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay until the very end because this fictional story is entering the chapter where every unexpected conversation begins to reveal its true purpose. Listen carefully. Nearly a month had passed since the confession in the garden, and life had become surprisingly peaceful. Your special person no longer replayed that evening in their mind. Instead, they focused on living each day with intention, offering kindness without expecting anything in return. They had discovered that when the heart is no longer distracted by fear, it begins to notice the quiet beauty hidden in ordinary moments. Every sunrise became a reminder that life continues moving forward, gently inviting us to grow with it instead of resisting it. What happened next changed everything. One quiet Saturday morning, your special person decided to visit a small bookstore they had loved since childhood. The owner greeted every visitor with the same warm smile, remembering names and favorite books as though each customer were an old friend. While browsing through the shelves, a worn bookmark slipped from the pages of an old novel. Written across it were simple words: "Some people enter your life to change your plans. Others enter your life to change your heart." They stood there reading that sentence over and over again. It felt strangely familiar, as though life itself had quietly placed another lesson directly in their path. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. Later that afternoon they walked beside a peaceful river where families gathered to enjoy the warm weather. Children laughed while feeding ducks, musicians played gentle melodies beneath tall trees, and elderly couples smiled as they watched the water flow by. Looking around, your special person realized that every face carried a story no one else could fully understand. Some people were celebrating new beginnings. Others were quietly recovering from difficult endings. Yet everyone kept moving forward. They whispered softly, "Maybe courage isn't about never feeling broken. Maybe courage is choosing to keep believing in goodness after life disappoints you." That realization settled deeply within their heart. Listen carefully. As evening approached, they received an unexpected phone call from the same person who had confessed their feelings weeks earlier. The voice on the other end sounded peaceful, almost joyful. "I just wanted to thank you one more time," they said. "At first I thought your honesty would be the hardest thing I would ever hear. But looking back, it became one of the greatest gifts anyone has ever given me. Because you respected me enough to tell the truth, I learned to respect myself enough to stop chasing answers that weren't meant for me. I've started a new chapter in my own life, and I wanted you to know that I'm genuinely happy." Your special person smiled with quiet gratitude. They realized that compassion sometimes creates healing in ways we never witness until much later. Stay until the very end because the greatest lesson is still ahead. That night they returned to the hill overlooking the city where so many important moments of reflection had taken place. The lights below shimmered like countless tiny stars scattered across the earth. Sitting quietly beneath the evening sky, they opened their journal once again. This time they didn't write about relationships, uncertainty, or unanswered questions. Instead, they wrote about character. "The people we become," they wrote, "will always matter more than the outcomes we cannot control." Reading those words aloud brought an unexpected smile. For the first time in a long while, they felt completely at peace with both the past and the future. Then came the quiet moment that completed this chapter. As dawn slowly painted the horizon with brilliant shades of gold, your special person watched the first rays of sunlight touch the city below. They understood something extraordinary. The unexpected confession had never been the true turning point of the story. The turning point had been learning that honesty, kindness, humility, and courage can transform every relationship, whether it leads to friendship, love, or simply mutual respect. Every difficult conversation had quietly become another step toward becoming the person they had always hoped to be. My beloved child, remember that this is a fictional story created to inspire hope and reflection. We cannot control how every relationship unfolds, but we can choose to approach every conversation with honesty, empathy, and respect. Sometimes the most meaningful endings are the ones that leave everyone with greater wisdom, deeper compassion, and renewed hope for the future. Listen carefully. The following morning they visited the small cafe where so many important conversations had taken place throughout the story. The owner welcomed them with the same familiar smile and served their favorite drink without needing to ask. Sitting beside the window, your special person watched strangers come and go. Some hurried through the door with worried expressions. Others laughed together as though carrying no burdens at all. Yet they understood something most people never realize. Every person who walked through that cafe was living a story invisible to everyone else. Some were celebrating new beginnings. Others were quietly healing from endings. That realization filled their heart with even greater compassion. They promised themselves never to underestimate the quiet battles another person might be facing. Stay until the very end because the greatest realization is still ahead. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon that evening, your special person climbed the same peaceful hill where this journey had begun so many chapters ago. Standing there beneath a sky filled with brilliant shades of gold and crimson, they reflected on every lesson life had patiently taught them. They realized that unexpected confessions, difficult conversations, moments of uncertainty, and seasons of waiting had never been obstacles designed to stop them. They had been opportunities to strengthen qualities that would remain long after every circumstance changed. Patience had replaced impulsiveness. Gratitude had replaced regret. Compassion had replaced judgment. Hope had quietly become stronger than fear. Then came the moment that completed this chapter. Looking toward the endless horizon, they closed their eyes and whispered softly, "If tomorrow brings joy, I will receive it with gratitude. If tomorrow brings challenges, I will face them with courage. If tomorrow brings unexpected people into my life, I will meet them with kindness. Whatever comes next, I know I have become someone capable of growing through every season." The gentle breeze carried those words into the evening sky, and for the first time they realized they were no longer afraid of the unknown. The future had stopped feeling like something to fear and had become something to welcome. My beloved child, remember that this is a fictional story created to inspire hope and reflection. Sometimes the most meaningful chapters are not the dramatic moments that capture our attention. They are the quiet seasons where character is built through patience, honesty, forgiveness, and simple acts of everyday kindness. Those invisible moments often shape the future more powerfully than we ever realize. As another breathtaking sunrise slowly illuminated the world, your special person smiled with peaceful confidence and stepped into a brand new day. They carried no bitterness, no unanswered resentment, and no fear of what tomorrow might hold. Instead, they carried a heart strengthened by experience, guided by compassion, and filled with quiet gratitude. They understood that every ending had prepared them for a better beginning, every difficult conversation had deepened their wisdom, and every sunrise offered another opportunity to become a source of light for someone else. Somewhere beyond that glowing horizon, another extraordinary chapter was already waiting, not because life had promised perfection, but because they had finally learned that the greatest journeys are lived one honest, hopeful, and compassionate day at a time. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay until the very last word, because this is the final chapter of our fictional journey, the chapter where every unexpected conversation, every quiet tear, every sunrise, and every lesson finally comes together. Listen carefully. Your special person returned one last time to the peaceful hill where so many important moments had unfolded. The morning sky glowed with brilliant shades of gold as a gentle breeze carried the promise of a brand new day. Standing there in complete silence, they realized something extraordinary. The person who had arrived months earlier searching for answers was gone. In their place stood someone stronger, wiser, kinder, and deeply grateful for every chapter, especially the difficult ones that had quietly transformed their heart. What happened next changed everything forever. Before leaving, they opened the journal that had accompanied them through every season of the story. Slowly turning each page, they smiled through grateful eyes. The earliest entries were filled with uncertainty, fear, and questions that seemed impossible to answer. The middle chapters spoke of healing, forgiveness, courage, and difficult conversations. The final pages carried something completely different. They were filled with peace. Picking up their pen one last time, they wrote, "The greatest blessing was never having every wish fulfilled. The greatest blessing was becoming the kind of person who could face life with love, integrity, and hope regardless of what tomorrow brings." They gently closed the journal, knowing its purpose had been fulfilled. Don't skip, because this changes everything. As they walked back toward the town, they noticed the simple beauty of ordinary life unfolding all around them. A baker greeted customers with a warm smile before sunrise. Children laughed as they chased one another through a park. Friends shared breakfast while making plans for the future. An elderly couple sat quietly on a bench, holding hands without saying a word. Looking at these everyday moments, your special person finally understood that happiness had never been hiding in dramatic events alone. It had always been quietly waiting inside gratitude, kindness, honest conversations, and the courage to appreciate the people standing beside us today. Listen carefully. Later that afternoon, they received one final letter from the person who had unexpectedly confessed their feelings months earlier. There was no sadness in the words, no regret, and no bitterness. Instead, the letter simply said, "Thank you for showing me that honesty can be gentle, that kindness can exist even in disappointment, and that every ending can become the beginning of a better chapter. Because of that conversation, I found the courage to grow, to heal, and to keep believing in the future." Reading those words brought tears of gratitude to your special person's eyes. They realized that compassion had quietly changed 2 lives instead of 1. Stay until the very end, because the greatest realization is finally here. As evening painted the sky with breathtaking colors, your special person returned to the bridge where so many unforgettable moments had taken place. Looking at the calm river below, they whispered softly, "Love was never about holding on to every person forever. Love was about becoming someone who leaves every heart a little lighter than before." At that moment, every fear, every unanswered question, and every regret seemed to drift away like leaves carried gently downstream. Their heart was finally free, not because life had become perfect, but because they had chosen gratitude over resentment and hope over fear. My beloved child, remember that this has always been a fictional story created to inspire hope and reflection. We cannot know what the future holds or what others secretly feel, but we can choose to live with honesty, compassion, humility, and respect. Those choices shape not only our own lives but also the lives of everyone we meet. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the beginning of someone else's healing, even if we never fully see the results. As the final sunrise of this story slowly rose across the horizon, your special person took one peaceful breath and smiled toward the endless sky. They no longer searched for perfect endings because they had discovered something far more beautiful. Every ending quietly becomes the beginning of another chapter when we carry forward the lessons we have learned. They walked into the new day with a grateful heart, a peaceful mind, and unwavering courage, ready to welcome every opportunity to encourage, forgive, and love with sincerity. And so our fictional journey comes to a close. The journal rests on a quiet shelf, the bridge still stands, the river continues to flow, and each sunrise faithfully greets the world with new possibilities. But the greatest change was never found in those places. It was found within a heart that chose truth over fear, compassion over pride, forgiveness over regret, and hope over despair. As the golden light stretched across the horizon, they took their first step into a future no longer defined by uncertainty, but illuminated by wisdom, gratitude, and the quiet confidence that every sunrise is another chance to become the answer to someone else's prayer through simple acts of kindness and genuine love. The story ends here, but its message lives on in every new beginning.